officially 6:35. We're going to call the meeting to order. So, Peter, going to lead us through the pledge, and Mark, would you like to do prayer? All right, ready?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, thank you for just reminding my family this last Sunday that just your mercies are really no way to count them all. And just thank you that as you would bless each and every person here tonight as we discuss these ordinances, that things will be really, build everybody to be enlightened and understand what's going on, and that we can come into agreement on some of the ordinances. We thank you for your kindness and your love and your mercy in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, so the computer, from here to the TV's not working, so I'll be standing up there when we get to the actual document for comment. So, from here we'll work this way. John's not here tonight, so I'm going to take minutes and run a meeting.
I can do the minutes.
Okay, hopefully in a smooth order so John can follow. So, let's go ahead and get started here. We did not have a meeting last month for a quorum. So this month we need to sign our October minutes and get them approved. And then the little memo that John sent out about November when we didn't have our meeting, we just need to get that signed and sent around as well. So I'll send that around and we'll stop with you. You want us to go that way so it goes to you?
So you got a copy?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for in your guys' little handout, there was the October minutes. If you guys want to read over those and see if you'd like to approve those, and then once we do that, we'll do the November one. Is there any they can make a motion to approve the minutes? We'll send them around.
Make a motion.
Andrew makes the motion. Is this to approve the October minutes and the November memo?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second to approve both? Mark? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. I'll start signing it and it'll end to Travis. Thank you. Okay. We didn't have anybody, while that's going around, I'll go ahead and keep moving on. We didn't have anybody who wanted to speak tonight at the public meeting, but last week was Terry, he spoke. So he voiced his concerns over that. Travis, you didn't have anything for today's meeting, or did you?
I just wanted to mention real quick, I called Terry also. I don't know if Todd did or not, but I tried to do a little bit of follow-up with him, and I told him that the building department's attorney is finishing and wrapping a letter that will be going out to that adjoining property owner. And I don't know where the health department is on it. That's really where it should be in.
Well, thank you for,
But I told him, we're at least doing that, and enforcement will probably come from the health department.
okay. Thank you for giving him a call. I talked to John, he didn't have anything to the meeting tonight, I don't think. Anybody have any previous business you'd like to discuss while we have time? If not, it's okay, but just leaving it out there. Okay. Okay, so when I talked to John last week, when I sent out the agenda, in your handout that says proposed meeting dates for 2023, he told me we need to look over those and get those done, but then today he told me that we need to wait till January to do that, so he can be here. So if you'd like to look at those dates and see if all of those work for you guys, I've already printed them out. I tried to do and follow the council meetings, do the first Monday of the month unless it was a holiday, we wouldn't be here, so we did the next Monday. So the only one that really affected was September, so we will be meeting on September 11th. I don't know if anybody cares, if you want to go ahead and discuss maybe changing any of these dates while we're here. If not, these will probably be what is done in January. Also in January will be our renewal of members for everyone who wants to stay on the board, and appointments of the offices on the board. So, and times, I guess if we want to change time for our meeting, if you guys want to do that or whatever, that'll be discussed in January. Since we didn't have a quorum in November, and I wasn't here, and I read the minutes, but I didn't really know what was decided since we couldn't take a vote, or if there even needed to be a decision, was I went ahead and kept the health department code on there for wells and public sewer. Travis, did anything come of that? Do we need to do anything here, or is that a commissioner thing for setting that up, or do we need to wait for John?
Well, my understanding was that, it needs to be passed here first and then sent on to the commissioners. It's pretty important that we maintain those standards. It's possible when we drop off the books with the health department, a strong possibility.
Okay.
But the county needs to maintain that because we're on 99, all of our permits are 99.9% on septic and lateral field. So we need to keep the same standard that we've always been on. And I know that's coming up here in your agenda. I just wanted to emphasize how important that is for the county.
So in the package that we passed out, there's the page in there, it's just printed out for what is currently on the website for the health department. It says that there must have a minimum of 0.75 acre of land on public water or 1 acre with a private well to obtain a septic permit. It's under my understanding that the health department, the states, I think the state, I'm not quite sure, I might have misspoke, has changed that to where they no longer have to follow those rules, so there's no minimum requirement for those. And when it comes to health and just land use in general, I think even the health department is in agreement that they would like to follow this, but since it's on the county website, it was never a county ordinance, it was just something the health department followed. So we think this is important, and we need to pass it to get it to a county ordinance, so the health department would have to adopt into the county ordinance. That's how I'm taking it, but I could be misspeaking.
It's basically just going to be a catch-all land usage, 0.75, city water, acre, well. Okay, that's where we're at. That's what the health department will probably follow. But it's just, my understanding is if we pass it, then it'll be passed on to the commissioners and then they go ahead and adopt it. It's the exact same standard we've been using. But it's just been that the first permit we did count for the county-wise on any land usage, if you're, going to be if it's going to be for any type of residential or development or whatever, it's 0.75 in an acre outside of the subdivision. So we're just doing the exact same thing. It's just the health department always did that first and established that rule. So the county really didn't have to follow it. It was already on the books. So, but now, for some reason at the state level, yeah, they're changing it, but we need to just pass it as the county, just land usage. 0.75 in an acre, just need to maintain the same rule.
And then if we pass it here, then Todd, since he's our representative of the commission, he'd take it to the commissioners meeting, which would then hopefully put it on what's currently the Washington County ordinance.
Travis, do you know if the state has a new minimum or is it just zero? I mean, does it matter?
You're talking for the health department?
Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding from Chris is if you have a soil test that will show whatever the absorption field is, it could be a tenth of an acre, as long as it works, they're going to okay it. But, that doesn't give, any allowance for anything in the future for repairs, nothing. It's just, if it passes today, it's my understanding, if it passes today, great. It doesn't account for anything in the future at all. So, and it's just, that's just not good.
From the surveyor's point of view, so speaking from my office, we have a run-in a lot with neighbors and septic tanks already and lateral lines already crossing property lines. So I feel like from the surveyor's office standpoint, if we don't have a minimum, that's just going to increase that problem. And there's already more people in Washington County are getting surveys, I feel like, than before, but even for those that aren't, once the septic's put in, those lateral lines are there, you can't really move it. So then you have to change the lines, which costs the taxpayers in turn more money to get those corrected. So I feel like we need a minimum from the surveyor's point of view.
So if they did like 0.1 acre, that's like telling Indiana Land Company, start buying some land, because you can chop up in a 0.75, you can get 7 lots, right? Or
I mean, I'm not the health department, so I don't really know, but
So they're still going to be at a 2-acre minimum.
Because it's a subdivision.
Nothing to do with subdivisions.
this would just be like if I was gonna build my home on if my family has property and I was gonna build my home there, I don't have to have a minimum for a septic to fit my septic and my lateral lines. In my home, in my garage, the septic, as long as the soil would be good, then I'm under the understanding that it would be okay. So.
Travis, clarify for me, are you suggesting we keep this on the books and this is going to be a step for maintaining the septic permit still? Or is this going to, are you allowed to purchase a half an acre parcel?
You can in my office, we don't have a minimum land requirement for you to exchange property or
So it's only going to be you can go buy a half acre parcel, and then when you go to request a septic permit, you're going to be denied because you don't have enough. You don't have a minimum lot size.
Mm-hmm.
Because the county ordinance is just going to be for the septic
No, it shouldn't be. It's just gonna be 0.75 to, if you're just on city water, my understanding is countywide, you're gonna have 0.75 of an acre. If it is well, it's going to be 1 acre, okay?
For you to apply
For the septic permit, yes. But like if your neighbor has property and you're wanting to expand your yard by an acre or a half, 0.25 acres, you can do that, because you're not,
So the ordinance is still going to be to there's going to be a step to maintain a septic permit.
that's my understanding, it's just to maintain the septic permits for the health department.
To even get your first permit to move over to the health department, yes. It's not gonna be now where you septic permit first, and then the health department say, this is the rules, 0.75 per acre. It's gonna be, the county comes first. If you're on city water, it's 0.75 well acre.
So then they would have to follow the county
Before you
ordinance
get to
and the
the
state
health
proposed. Now, I don't know how, in the minutes it said that the wording was fine, I think, maybe, from November, from just the memo, it says, regarding the removal of the county health department code regarding wells and public sewer, Travis and Todd see no reason to revise the ordinance as it currently reads, so the wording would stay the way it is. I don't know how that would fall as a whole county ordinance, because if we just pass the ordinance, must have a minimum. Does this need to be worded a little differently, or just to be added into the county ordinance, is my question. Because if that's just one sentence, I guess that's a John Meade question. So,
I'm wondering if we don't do anything, we operate the same way. It already is a county ordinance.
no. This is a, I don't know how to word it properly. This is a
This
state.
was a state requirement that's being removed. So if we don't put it into our county requirements, then that's when they can go down the,
It was a state code
For the health.
requirement for the health department, and the county just always piggybacked off that. And so now, if they're dropping it off their books, we've got to add to ours, is my understanding.
Okay.
What happens to Hardensburg lots that's too small? Since they lost their incorporation?
I don't know. See, I know that's,
I understand going forward, but they're put in a position where the county said, they're making promises to do this to say they're not intending to keep them.
yeah, I know that's, and, Deacon's the same way. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Max, but, I mean, I don't know, I've mentioned it, but I don't know how it's gonna work.
Well, I didn't know, they could create a PUD district around Hardensburg to save it, but they'd have to have a separate thing for the health department to say in incorporated areas and PUD districts, the standard's different. Do they want to do that or just go ahead and stay with the 3/4? I understand what you're saying, but
Sure.
they're in a position right now, they bought these lots, they own these lots. There's a lot of them, 0.27, 0.27, 0.22. A lot of people to get.
so they wouldn't have had to follow this rule
Well,
when Hardensburg was in, because it was a county health department ordinance, it wasn't a county plan ordinance. So they would have had to follow that anyway.
Well, if it was a state rule, then it would have had to have been followed regardless. If there's not a septic system or a
Public sewer.
public sewer within that area, then the state statute would still apply.
Yeah, so they should have known that when they purchased the .27, that if they were gonna put a septic on it, it would have had to have been this, right?
How did they get there to start with then?
I'm sorry.
How did Hardinsburg get these small lots to start with then? I understand Campbellsburg's a different story because they've had the sewer since 1960 something. But Hardinsburg's been around before that, and the state allowed these lots to be there and the houses to be built on them and all others, and maybe even subdivisions within that, because like Campbellsburg's had 3 or 4 different things, but like I said, they got public sewers that are on a different wavelength there, but I didn't know how that worked out, or whether they were exempt because they were incorporated, they fell under the rules of their incorporated limits. The same thing like with South Hillo. I don't know what lot size is in South Hillo, but all these little burgs like that was developed without that in mind at the time. I don't know.
I don't really know, because like I said, that was an incorporated town, and that was between the town and the health department. So, yeah, I wondered that same,
Well, that's why I didn't know whether there need to be provisions made before it passes and the health department can't do anything different if they wanted to, or what recommendation the health department would have to say, we can do this, but we have to be super duper to be able to allow, because you don't want everybody out in the county coming in trying to get a variance, but whether you make exceptions for variances in the previously incorporated.
and I'm asking, does anybody know, Town of Hardinsburg, their incorporated rules, what?
I don't know what it was, but it's been dissolved now, so I don't know until they can get
I would say that would be a question for John to look into and maybe discuss it with Dustin Howard, the county attorney, since the town's still being gone through, I guess.
'Cause I'm kind of like Danielle, I mean, how was it passed in the first place, you know?
Right, because they would be someone who lived in Hardinsburg would still go, if they wanted to build a house, would still have to go through this process, right? Even though it was incorporated. I'm asking.
I have no idea.
I mean, that's what's gonna happen if
Before,
Yeah.
before when Hardinsburg was incorporated, they still had to follow this same,
the 3/4 and, so I
I
don't
didn't
understand how they could.
I didn't know how that worked out. I didn't know whether they had to get a permit from the county to build like a house in Campbellsburg on a 120 by 200 foot lot, which is already chopped off, and you see new houses come up to.
It's something the county, it's something we're gonna have to figure out, because, you know, until, you know, they incorporate, until they decide, I guess, they're not gonna be incorporated again, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know where they are in the middle. That's just,
Yeah, the newspaper said they're not incorporated, and plus, my understanding from one of the council members on budget, they're gonna help pay off some of these things going on that they've already into. But after that, don't spend no more money, because there's none coming. Unless they actually somehow, I guess, incorporate. That's what the newspaper says, so.
We'll just have to probably table this one for the next meeting. That would be my recommendation. I can't do that, but I would say that John Mead's not here, so we don't know the proper wording, to therefore fall into Hardinsburg. I feel like we should probably hold off. I don't know what you all think, but
I'm curious about what the state's reasoning for changing at their level. If there's some reason why that is happening, or if there's some verbiage that's replacing it.
Chris Bowman, if you would know, but
No, yeah, that'd be my recommendation too.
I don't know if he knows necessarily. I think it's just kind of whenever the state says go, they
And that's,
change.
it was just his recommendation too, that, you know, we get this passed. And then he didn't really have any answers on why, or, I mean, it's been going on for, 3-4 months now. But yeah, it's whatever y'all want to do. But yeah, that's valid questions. I don't know how that's going to.
but I didn't know how your permit process worked inside like Campbellsburg or the other incorporated areas as far as because like Pekin was asking about building inspection on your part, you're not doing that. I didn't know about the other stuff too, whether, what minimums applied or whether the town had their own, because they were incorporated, they had their own standards and whatnot.
So Travis, when somebody, when Hardinsburg was incorporated, if they wanted to build a house in there, did they come to your office?
No.
Who did they go to?
There, I believe someone, a representative, they would go in front of the town board, and then whoever their town council would appoint to do the inspections and permitting or what have you would be through the town of Hardinsburg, except for the septic permit. That still went through the health department. But that's, yeah, but see, that's the other question. If you take over these little towns, because of just, let's say that scenario right
Yep,
there.
yep.
Now we're going, okay, you've got Hardinsburg. Well, if you took over every little town here that's in, I know people are talking about it, are we going to have our own county zoning? And then, well, Hardinsburg, they've got all these little lots, they can't really
Well, there's also
control what we're
Fredericksburg.
doing.
Yeah, I mean, we dissolved Fredericksburg too, but most
Yeah.
of that was in the floodplain, so you can't
Anyway,
do
so I
anything
didn't
with that
count.
anyway, so probably never was questioned.
Yeah, we're gonna have, now we're gonna have a little separate rule for Hardinsburg, what they're doing, and then now we're gonna have separate rules here for Pekin.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, you could create a PUD district and say everything that they have right now is what we consider to be to make it separate from the rest of the county ordinances. To say the lot size is the lot size, and here's where the businesses are, and here's the other stuff, and then they just have to come ask for a variance to change anything different from what it's already scheduled as a lot size of this size for a building lot.
But it just, I don't know, it just always seems to me.
I don't know, but before you make a hard fast thingy there, it's just something to consider before, because I know what you're trying to do, you're trying to get it, this is the line, here it is. And, you know, without having to back up 2 weeks or 2 months from now, and now we gotta make a new line, now we gotta make a new line, and how do you address it at one time to get
I
it?
was just trying to get, taken care of what we have right now.
Yep,
Nothing to do with
yep.
incorporated towns, that's gonna be a whole nother situation. But, no, we don't even, no, I mean, that's fine, if you don't wanna do that, it's no big deal, but
Well, that's the only snag right now, and like you said, the other little towns may fall in the domino effect here. You may be getting, not like South Hillo and whatever else for the county to have to deal with. You know what I'm saying, as far as being their incorporation going
Someone
away.
wants to recommend that and move it forward. We have a motion to table this until January.
We just moved the table.
Okay. So we'll look into that. We'll have John, when he's here, discuss it with him. So do we have a second for tabling the motion? Mark has tabled the motion. Do we think? All in favor of tabling the health department code until January? Say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Next, oh, go ahead. I don't speak over you.
No, it's okay. We didn't have a motion, so we really couldn't table it, but that makes sense.
All right, well, we moved to table it.
Trouble. I said, she said she was gonna move to table it, so I just.
Yeah. But we didn't have a motion, so
Maybe.
it's hard to.
Maybe.
Something that didn't actually make sense, but okay.
Okay. So then we move on again, 517. And then, I want to say the last meeting, but November was in the meeting. It says, Johnny reported on 517.2.10 regarding the minimum height requirements considering airport overlay ordinance. Does anybody know what exactly he said? We should probably wait till the next meeting when John's available. move on with that since it would be his changes for this one. I attached it in the packet you guys got. In the orange is the parts that John was going to look into. I had changed all the other stuff prior to, so those are just the one things we were kind of waiting on still. For that document, for section 517. Since he's not here, but an official meeting to give his report. Probably just move on along.
So all he did was say what was in the orange, right? On the
Well,
ordinance.
that's my question. This orange hasn't changed since
Hasn't changed
October.
since October.
Yeah.
So he just shared what he had found about the questions we had from the previous meeting and why the orange parts were added the way that they were, was my understanding. But there wasn't enough to have quorum or
Okay.
whatever, so we couldn't approve that. And, only 3 of us that are here now were here last time. So
Yeah.
I don't feel that I can appropriately explain John's,
What he was
what
explaining.
he was explaining to the 2 people to actually have a vote. So I can put that in the minutes.
Okay, we'll just hold off on that as well. We'll give you time to do that. You ready? Before we get started? Alrighty. So then we're on to our last section of business. That's nice. Look at this. Okay, so we're moving to section 518. I gave everyone homework in October, maybe September, for what their definition of a temporary residence was, because that's where we're falling into. The dilemma is what we're considering a temporary residence. And so, I remember at that meeting, we kind of got off on, sorry about that, that's the radiator. We got off on I just talked about it. Sheds, campers,
Yeah.
building, yard building, however you want to word them.
Yeah. Type 2 manufactured homes, is something that came up.
So, section 518 is what we were working on then. I'm gonna go back to that computer so I can show up on here, so you guys probably be able to hear me when I talk, so. We'll move on back. We're close enough. You guys read that? You see it somewhat?
You go one more?
One more?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yep.
look at what Travis has already used in section R107, temporary structures and uses, to be kind of added in for this. And it talks about in here, it shall not be, currently as it reads, it says, single-family construction slash renovation, a type 2 manufactured home or mobile home may be allowed if it meets the standards for a permit to be issued as a temporary residence on a lot where there is a permit to construct or renovate a single-family home for a maximum of 2 years. Per International Residential Code passed by the County R107.1 General, the building official is authorized to issue a permit for temporary use. Such permits shall not be permitted for more than 180 days. The building is authorized to grant extensions for the demonstrated cause. I think we added that one part in there, I do believe. I don't think that R107 was already in there before. Because I think the last time we talked about this, we discussed if you're going to build a home, why would you pay the money to set a mobile home or a manufactured home on site that you'll then have to move once your permanent structure has been finished? So then that's where people have been, I assume, pulling in the campers or the other temporary living quarters, I guess I'll call them. For residents and that would work.
This R107, this, and it says time of service and permit is issued for 180 days. Does that contradict the?
The R107.1 general, that is what is currently being followed. Currently,
So temporary residences are permitted for 6 months at 180 days.
Travis, is that correct? Currently, if someone is a temporary residence, 180 days.
Not 2 years currently.
So that upper part that's in orange or yellow, however it looks on that screen, that's how it read before, I'm pretty sure. Any changes were made, but I'm not quite positive. Before the ordinance document, before we added in anything, was that correct? I
So
don't-
as KK presented at the top.
Yes, I think that's right. I don't have the original printout for that in front of me.
And R107 is what we have on the books now.
Yes. And that's where we stopped at the meeting prior. Because we couldn't decide what we should have a definition for a temporary residence. Because everybody, what we would think of as temporary residence was different. It just caused, I don't want to say confusion when we're talking out loud, but kind of. Because the way it's worded on the working document from KK, would be a type 2 manufactured home or mobile home. Travis, just throwing a question out there, how many people bring in mobile homes as temporary residents to sit on site while their house is being built, or however that would work?
I can remember maybe in 21, 22 years, maybe 2
Okay.
versus probably maybe 10 or 20 a year campers sitting beside the home as it's being built. You just don't see it. I think you asked that last time, Andrew, I think, but it just doesn't happen.
Because I feel like currently now, those homes that are temporary, what people are putting in. I could be wrong, 'cause I'm not for sure the difference between type 2 manufactured and mobile, but
I think we looked up type 2 manufactured last time, and
It
it
had
or
weird-
in October, and
Yeah.
it wasn't,
It wasn't very clear.
no, and it
So-
wasn't something practical that you.
Yes.
It-
So, granted, those are mobile structures, which would mean you could pull them in and pull them out. But that's not what really the Washington County residents are using as temporary residence. Correct? Is 2 years what was already on there, is that a logical time, or is 180 days more reasonable?
Can, with using R107 the way we have that permit now, do people renew that permit? It's just drop a paper off, drop a permit application off again, 6 months, 180 days after your first one is approved?
If it's being used for, if the camper's being used to build, they're staying there while they're building another structure, we're just renewing it for them. If it's just no structures being built, they're coming in here to camp on their property, it's 180 days on, and then, you know, they're back home for the winter, 180 days off. That we're trying to, you know, keep that on the books to, you know, help people out basically, because there's a lot of neighboring counties here that don't even allow this, so I think we're doing pretty good. But with the system we have now for what it's the people's needs around here, so.
Question, do you know, I was just hearing an old story about a house as I went, like going into town. And somebody was telling me that, you know, this house is just sitting there, it's like nothing's happening. I mean, it looks great, but it doesn't appear anybody's living in it. It's got two beautiful homes going down 60 in that area on the right. But there's one that sits off to the back, like nothing's going on. So I just asked, kind of what I call my ombudsman, I won't say who he is, but he knew him because he was going to be doing cabinets and stuff for him. And he said at that time, you had unlimited amount of time to build your house. Now, I'm not saying anything about this camper thing, but you had unlimited time. And that's kind of what they did because the guy passed away and this was their dream house, and I don't know kind of what's happened since then. But after 2 years now, is my understanding through him, that you have to start paying taxes no matter what, after 2 years. And I don't know if that's true, false, or I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I mean, somebody jump in here if I'm wrong, but as soon as the first, you know, you have I don't know what the time period is, but I know once, you know, your property's assessed, as you begin construction, you know, if it's the foundation, I think you pay 10 to 20% on that, and then it just goes up in stages. I don't know what their time period is, when it begins, or,
I think that a lot of, I'm not speaking for the assessor's office, but I know just how things usually work is like it's 2022 right now. So you're gonna pay what 2022 is in 2023. 2023 would reflect on what you always pay, like for now or later. So everyone assumes that it's gonna hit in 2 years. I don't know if it actually does or not, but usually that's how taxes come. They're picking up what was missed. So I don't know if that's true or not. That would be a question for the assessor's office, and I don't know that. How they pick them up for taxing purposes. So I don't know on that one, but.
Remind me, Emily, I know we had talked in October to define a temporary residence. And if we did that, were we trying to put that into the the R107 section and define it?
I think so. I think-
And do away with the upper section?
Yes, I think so, because I think if we took, and I'm not quite, it's been a while, I've slept a lot since then, but I think what the confusion was maybe falling from is if we remove that first section that was already in existence in this document for the type 2 manufactured home or the mobile home, if we take that out and just put in what was currently being followed, it doesn't actually state what the temporary residence would be like it does before. So before it's saying it's a type 2 manufactured or mobile home, and if we take all that out and put in what we already have and what we're already following, doesn't it specify what the temporary residence should be? And I think that's where we fell into it last time is the whole camper ordeal started again, kind of. We don't want you living in a camper because it's not safe, it doesn't follow state code, that kind of. So that's why the temporary residence definition was kind of going to come in as what is a temporary residence that would go in for you once your final home is built that you would remove off your property.
I guess for me, I like a combination of those two things, where we do specifically single family construction renovation and say that temporary residence, the building official can permit or authorize temporary residence if it meets, or where there's a permit for construction or renovation of a single family home. And I like that it's for 180 days with the option to continue to renew that for up to 2 years. I think is plenty of time for that. I can be persuaded though to go less or more or whatever, but to say that, but to be very specific that it's for this reason that you can have a temporary structure. This is how long the permit's for. This is how long we'll continue to renew the permit, but after that, that's not what this, that now has become your permanent residence, and that is not a permanent residence. I don't care too much about the type 2 manufactured home or mobile home because you say that's not happening. And those are permanent residence type housing anyway. So I guess I'm fine if somebody, personally, I'm okay if somebody wants to live in their camper while they're building their house. But it should be expedited. That process should be expedited. And then separate from that would be if you're going to camp on your property for the summer and then go back to your permanent residence. I think those two things are completely separated. That's how I feel. But those are only 180 days or whatever number we need to say, with no chance of reissuing that.
Unless it goes to BZA.
Unless it goes somewhere, well, I don't know. That is one of the questions I have. Sorry, my voice is not very good right now. It's never good, but it's even worse now. These ordinances where that R107 comes from, this is not us, right? We did not.
Correct.
That's what I guess where I have some confusion is that this is not something that we did, that the Plan Commission did. These are not ordinances that the Plan Commission.
That's out of the IRC, that's what we passed for our building code. Now, yes, and then we got this part now for you all that is addressing temporary structures. So, okay, sorry, Daniel, go ahead. If this helps out any to cut some of the confusion out, if it's a HUD certified home, it will be a single wide, 99.9% will be a single wide or a double wide, and 99.9% of those will be set up for permanent living, foundation, tie downs, so on and so forth. Okay, that will not play into this temporary structure, definition, anything at all. That's not talking about all those. Now, if it helps you, if it's, and you guys tell me if you know anything any different, but what I see, all the temporary structures that we give the temporary permits for, they come in, they've got basically an RV camper certification, 180 days. And that's basically what our temporary structures are. I don't think I have anything on the books that is anything but that. Unless you guys know something different that somebody has, maybe, but that's really the only two we deal with. But your mobile home hubs, they're gonna go under a regular building permit. You know, like those two I talked about, they were back in probably late 90s, early 2000s. And then the rest, all these temporary structures have been not RV campers certifications. And that's what has that fell under our temporary structure permit. It's been one of the two.
You're not getting any of the shed, mini barn structures as a temporary structure like this?
No, they're not coming in to apply for that. They're not coming in like a mini barn or something like that, or a cabin. A few of them may try to apply for an actual building permit, maybe trying to get a permit such as like a HUD home. They'll try to do that, or ask to do that. But no, I mean, they just, it's just something they just want power on and just want to live in. Basically no permits. No tent, no regular building permit, nothing. So.
Well, isn't this like in the IRC book where this is kind of what we're going off of, and the state's adopted it along with like 40 other states? And plus, every time you go to court, when you move forward, what your insight discernment tells you can be done, the judge rules in our favor, because this is, it's precedent, it's been approved.
It's minimums. It's bare minimums. That's all we enforce. That's it. It's nothing that we pass special. There's nothing that I've made up and just my, whatever I think, what word am I wanting here? My understanding of the definitions. It's just we present the minimums and that's it. It's already been established. So yeah. Already been defined.
So if we passed something that contradicted R107, and if we presented something and something was approved that contradicted R107, what would happen?
Don't put you on the spot like what? What do you?
So let's say we say that a temporary structure can only be that manufactured home, type 2 manufactured home or mobile home. What if we did that contradicts this right here?
Well,
So then what happens?
Well, honestly, I can't answer that because there was like 2 or 3 different definitions I found for that type 2 manufactured home. I don't know. You guys would have to come up with some definition for type 2 because honestly, I don't know. I mean,
It sounds like R107 and kind of,
I guess it's kind of coming down to whether, if you guys pass something, I guess, who it may turn into is the zoning board then enforcing rules and regulations on temporary structures, or is it going to stay with the building department? That's the other thing you need to figure out.
Well, see, that's one of my issues with this, and why I'm still not I'm not 100% sure we should be passing an ordinance about the septic system stuff, because there's things that fall in other locations, and is this, who is going to regulate this? Is it gonna be us, or is it gonna be you? Or building commission stuff? Who's doing what? And I think we've asked that question before, and we don't get an answer as to where that falls. If we just want to put in here that temporary residence, temporary structures, refer to the building commissioner regulations or whatever that is, I'm fine with that, but they need to be the same, and
I think that's where you all were going with this on the definition. And it's like Danielle said, you know, it may, if you guys pass something, I think once you determine what you're calling a temporary structure, and then I think you need to make the decision on, is it something the zoning board wants to be over, or do you just want to say, refer it back to the building department and just
So as your
take this out of our packet?
To be up to date. My thing is, I just have a quick question from Sandy back here reading this again. A temporary residence is you're just gonna live there temporarily. A temporary structure is listed below this. What would that be used for? If you're not living in it as a temporary residence, what's a temporary structure? I think that's where we got confused. I think that's where we all started. So a temporary residence is where you're gonna live while your home is being built. Kind of is what we decided.
or I'm gonna do a vacation for 6 months on my
Yes,
property.
under your property, but then what's a temporary structure?
Everything I deal with is just a temporary structure.
So you don't defer temporary residence to
No,
temporary structures?
It's
All
temporary
temporary
structure, that's
vacancies.
it, 180 days, there's nothing, we're
So
getting off
someone-
somewhere else then.
Okay, so now when this document comes out, this section is temporary residence, but right below it is temporary structure, and you operate them the same. Not just you, but building departments operate them on the same playing field.
Yes,
That
and
was
if
a lot of temporary structure, because I think in that document it calls it like a temporary classroom or something.
Yeah, KK put a couple examples in like a school classroom or a storage building at an industrial site.
Yeah, those are what, and the
Commercial.
next thing is a temporary structure.
That
In
was,
the document we're working on. And I think that's where we were coming up with the definition. Because in this ordinance, there's temporary residence and temporary structures, but the building department is just temporary structure. Which is okay, but. I
There's
think that's
temporary
what we-
structures and uses, and then.
Yeah, and in this document, there's two. And that's where the definition needed to come into play, I think, is what we were trying to do last time. But you just kind of clarified that right now as it stands, if it were to come to you, whether it's a camper or a storage unit, temporary structure is where the code you go to. That you don't look for a temporary residence code because that's not in it. You go to the IRC temporary structure.
You know, basically, if they're gonna live in it temporarily, and then you've got to bump down to R 107.2, the performance of that.
But if it was just for like a temporary storage structure, we'd just do the first one.
We're not, they don't even have to get a permit, I mean, that's like, I don't know.
Well, that's kind of what I'm questioning.
Like if my house, let's say I had a garage and it caught on fire and it was a permitted structure on my property, but then I wanted to take things out of that garage and store it, and I wanted to put up a temporary structure while I'm rebuilding that garage. Would I have to get a permit to put
No.
up that storage building to hold my garage belongings?
Like those pods or something?
Right.
Yeah, no. We don't have that right now.
Okay, that would be,
So that's kind of, because like, I have, I'll just say, because it doesn't my feelings. I live in a double wide, which is a mobile home. And then I have a shed in my backyard, which I assume is a temporary structure, because if I move, I can pick it up and take it with me back in case someone will come and get it. But that would be a temporary structure, kind of, or no? Like my shed, I don't know.
I wish you would have told us that.
My miller's
We'd
mini,
have to-
my miller, whatever you want to call it.
no.
And I think that's what Todd, I think that was the last meeting, Todd was getting, because they're using those temporary structures, I forget what he was using the last time, but those barns.
Well, it even goes past just storage because it's not storage no more, it's living quarters on top of a non-permitted structure.
So,
So those are two different things. You
Yeah.
having a mini barn on your property to store your Christmas tree
Yes.
and all your Christmas decorations is not a temporary use.
it's a
No,
permanent use.
that's
for
a
me.
permanent use, no
Gotcha.
matter how long it's on your property.
So that,
But if,
I think was also happening in the last meeting. We're coming full circle here.
but if you put a mini barn on that property to live in temporarily, but you're gonna say no to that, right?
Yeah, the
Because
tent part's not even going to enter,
there's too
we're
many.
mixing.
Yeah,
So if you if you were living in a mini barn, would you be in violation of R107.2 conformance issues?
No, because it doesn't even qualify for a mobile home. You're not even going to hit
It doesn't qualify as a temporary residence.
The
or a
residence,
residence of
yeah.
any kind,
right.
Because it doesn't have any kind of number on it, right?
That certification, just like, like
like
in,
the RV camper certification, like you said, that's what's usually coming in. So
yeah,
mine's not a mini barn, but my mini barn, my gray room, whatever you want to call it, has no number on it. So I don't qualify to any of that. And if I wanted to live in it, I would be in violation of something somewhere.
Of a different
Of
ordinance,
a different
yes,
ordeal.
no problem.
Okay.
not related to.
Clarifying, like if you're.
you see, a lot of times, like the mini barns, you have to kind of look around a little bit, but if you open the doors and go on the inside, a lot of times after they're manufactured, there's a black S of some sort stamped on the inside of those. Storage is what they are.
Okay.
So,
And that falls in a whole different part of our ordinance. Okay.
so if somebody was building a house and they pulled up a mini barn and you saw it and you realized they were living in it,
No.
no,
They can use it like for storage.
yeah, they can store their stuff
just-
before they put it into their house that they're building, or if they want to keep their saws and hammers and stuff in there that they're using to build, that's
No
fine.
problem. Yep.
But they're not living in it.
Not
That's
living in it.
different.
Yeah, then basically you got to get up to at least a camper standards 180 days, and then we can, after 180 days, then we can extend the permit, put an extension on it for them.
So,
You've got to get into a structure that's safe to live in, that can be secure, so on and so forth.
so without, we we'll even have to clarify if they're all operating the same.
I
So that we
think
don't.
Based upon the way I understand it now, there's no clarification,
Yeah.
because
So to
many
make
barns
this
are
document,
are
yeah.
not temporary structures, so.
So
How do we change this to work with what is going on?
I think you'll need to go back to what Danielle's saying. Is the zoning board going to tackle temporary structures?
Do
Or
we
is
just
it going
want
to
to
be the
say
department?
temporary? Would it work out better though if we make temporary residence and temporary structure the same number? That way, no matter what it is, we would leave them separate just in case later down the line they divide.
I think they're separate because I think KK's intention on temporary structures is make it as commercial. Like, it's bigger, it's more broad than that, but my mind thinks commercial use.
Outside
Which is still a safety issue.
So leave them separate, and then maybe we should just, if we don't want to be over it, we want Travis to be over it, please see the building commission department.
And I think, and this has come up too before, like what Danielle said, through this document, that was handed down, from KK, I think just because we're new and we're trying to get this passed, you have a lot of carryover from building department to zoning department. And it's not intentional, it's just the way it is right now. So, but I think you need to weed through that, like Danielle's saying.
So if we would change temporary residence, remove every subsection under that, and just write simply something like, go to the building commissioner to see,
Refer to,
we don't have like a document to refer you to really, but
Bring the R107 and then vote that? Or you don't want to do that because that might.
that doesn't, because I would say, because if it changed later on
R107 changes in where.
for Travis,
Yeah.
then it would be out of line. So we really just need to, if we want to just keep it, what's the word I'm looking for?
I say refer to building commission, regulations.
You guys remember, what was the other thing that we did? We did, you all did that too. What were we talking about?
It was
Where were we
something about
from?
the state. We played it a state and Bubba looked it up, didn't he?
Something about height.
But we really put in there reference something. That way, if it ever changed, it was off of us and onto that.
What do
Was
you,
staying with the building department. You did that, yeah, that happened.
what do you call this? Are these ordinances, are they rules? Or
It's minimum codes.
minimum codes? To building commission.
It's the minimum, it's IRC. Danielle.
Higher, so
See, related to temporary structures and uses.
You can even, talk to, the one section, the R107.
Does that change? Does that number,
would that ever
would that number
change?
change, R107?
I doubt it, because it's in section 100, I think it's in administration, so I doubt it will.
So that might be something we do for that, and then we would probably just, if we're doing it for that, and if we get to the commercial, would you do that too? No? Where's that?
For now, no, it just fall under like, I guess agricultural building or something like that, there's just no permit process for it now for the county. Or when
Even that
bringing in a
ordinance,
temporary
if
structure.
we don't do it right now, that's not what it's being used for in our county, do we leave it? Or do we change what it says and leave the heading? Or just put the following temporary structure? That would be our next question. And we could do is just leave it up to temporary residents, we jumped that hurdle today. I'm taking that as a win, I'm calling it a win for us today. And we've even made progress to be able to explain to each other what we're all talking about at the same time. Because I feel like there's too many words that fly around that we need one thing, but Travis is doing it every day, so it doesn't happen that way. So I think we got a little farther today.
I think we got a little farther, definitely. And I agree with Andrew that those temporary structures like classrooms, that, like I don't know, some sort of trailer. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a trailer that sat outside of Brady Sherman Elementary, and I went there for enrichment once a week.
West Washington, we had a
You
few
know?
of those ISD.
Right, but it's like, those
Yeah.
structures should be regulated, they shouldn't just be able to be out there, there are children in them, on a regular basis. Yeah, you can see for 180 days, if there was a tornado that took out a section of classrooms and you needed that, all of those things. But that shouldn't be a permanent solution because of anything and stuff like that.
And if it's something like that, that should go with the state anyway. It's gonna have commercial regulations, it's not even gonna be over in our office anyway, so.
So what about a temporary storage building at an industrial site? So if there was, give me an example, Andrew, that doesn't have exceptions.
Yeah.
What's a commercial property that's out in the county?
Call it,
What's that one out towards Gage Chapel Road? That's
so
it.
Thomas Plastics bought that building on,
Blue River Cabinetry.
Yeah, okay, so Blue River Cabinetry, it's in the county, right? Right.
It's on West Wilson School.
And they're gonna put in a,
Temporary structure to store equipment that they need. They're gonna get new equipment, they've got to store the new equipment for
and build
180
a
days.
permanent garage.
the only thing that would define that as a temporary structure would be it doesn't meet state code, correct?
No, I mean, they could, temporary work trailer, temporary office houses, you know, that they put up. I think Globe put up one there in Pekin, sits there on the right side.
Do they have to get a permit to do that if it's in?
It's not gonna come through the county, but it would go through the state.
Why would it go through the state and not you?
Because
It's not residential, so
Okay, so you don't do anything.
not on that part of it.
someone builds a commercial building in this county that is inspected by the state as well, not by your department.
Correct.
So,
So does this not apply?
see, I don't know, we can't do, what we can't do is do the same thing, copy and paste temporary residences and temporary structures, because you can't put it on the building commissioner's department, they don't do commercial.
And if you don't do commercial, and as a planning, to your knowledge, has the planning commission done commercial before? Or does it automatically hit the state?
Well, I think we just need to know what the state's, how do you refer to the state? Does the state use use this as well, commercially, or?
No, they use IBC, International Building Code, that's for commercial.
So can we just refer, can we say the same thing as we're agreeing on
That's what
here?
I would do.
And, but then put, refer to IDC or refer to this, whatever that state department is
Yes.
going to do.
State Building Department is what it is.
Temporary residence be the Washington County Building Permit.
Anything residential, yeah.
Anything corporate or commercial.
Would be the state building what?
State Building Department and Fire Marshal, I think is their title.
IDC, so IDC could maybe put a question mark, so that's we need to confirm what they're doing.
Yeah, they're under the IBC is what they inspect by. I don't know if you want that in there, I mean, I just say State Building and Fire Marshal's office.
Does the state building and fire marshal's office have a time, to your knowledge, have a timeline that's, you know, if you're gonna have a temporary structure on there, it's 180 days, or do they have any kind of permanent link that you know of that we would be contradicting if we add anything? I mean, it seems like we can't put anything in there that would, because we don't know what.
Yeah, we don't want them.
A lot of that's just to their inspector and their, discretion, but, I don't know anymore, really. I mean, they have an inspector down here, and,
You're referring to the Fire Prevention Building Safety Commission?
yeah.
Thanks to sit on that, and now they changed the title.
Yeah, I think that's the full title of it, I think.
Is that what I need to put in here? Peter?
Yeah. Indiana Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission.
You're way too fast. Indiana Fire Prevention.
And Building Safety Commission.
Thank you.
Deidre, you got that pulled up, that there on the front page. It's a long link, it's not that one there.
This is just gonna say,
Yeah, that's our next.
refer to
Yeah, no, no,
any fire prevention.
That's it right there.
or whatever it is. Then-
Let's hear the,
This is the.
I mean, I don't know, but that would be kind of,
Same.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
If
that's it.
it's commercial, and what should we specify if it's commercial related? I don't know.
Did you get it,
It's
Danielle?
not falling, it's not.
Thanks, so.
Indiana Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission.
We're reading it as it's commercial.
Yeah, I think it,
I'm not trying to contradict anyone, I'm just,
I
if
think
we're
it-
gonna make it, that's what it is. I
Like
can
the,
roll.
like the dollar stores that are going up, they're the ones who do inspections on here, yeah.
Is that on there, Andrew? Is that what's on the screen as a temporary structure?
yes.
Okay, that's what we were looking at. But that would be the next one.
You know, I believe they've got, you know, like one of those temporary, you know, work trailers out there right now, you know, the dollar store out there at Morgan's Market. I just never, you know, I don't have any idea on time. I don't know how that works. How long the trailers would be out there, I don't know.
Okay. I'm not one to rush anybody. We got about 10 minutes-ish till 8, so do you want to make a motion on section 517 and 518 to do what we have in there? Would you guys like to hold off on that for the next one? That's up to you guys.
You've been taking notes, have you been typing into the document?
No.
I think I would suggest that we, like, in green or in highlight, we write down what we just came up with. And then, I don't know that I want to make a motion to move on from that, John, but I think we should
That's okay.
put that in there because I think we're getting something. I'm afraid as we come back next month and then we start.
Backpedal,
We
and that's
get to,
not,
we get to 85.
I don't want to say I'm worried about it, yeah.
Yeah,
But I think now we all have a better understanding of
yeah.
how that falls. So if Danielle's making the notes, then she can send them to me and John, and then I can type up what it would look like in this document, I'm gonna say, like a Word document. So the next meeting, this is what it was, this is what we changed it to, or what we proposed it to be changed to.
Yeah, and we just don't.
And I would even add there just a little bit on that handout, why we, just to summarize what we did this time,
Yeah.
why we decided that at this meeting. So that way we don't have to hash it all out again, if we want. I can, and Danielle's got the notes already written up, so it should be fairly simple to do, if that's what you guys would like to do.
I have to change the where I wrote blah, blah, blah.
You're good. Works for me. I didn't send him my notes. But if you want, this is to just be our stopping point, if you guys would like, for 2022. Wrapping it up.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn the meeting. We have a second. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned at